Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of y'all, and peace out to the rest of you. There is an echo in this room. I'm doing a job in it, but at least the job is silent. However, this room does have an echo. Forgive me, but doing the best I can while I can with what I got. Look, I'll explain the title at the end. I've already explained my motives for any reasons of my advocacy. If you are in any of the spaces in which I am advocating for anyone for which I am, and you are doing this for political reasons, you're going to continue to do it regardless of what I tell you. And it would make sense. You're going to have an opinion. You'll advocate based on that. It's perfectly logical. But the human being is required to have a good reason for what he or she does. That being said, I don't make an apology for saying to all of us, really, that we got to have a moral reason for the advocacy in which we engage. If it's strictly political, if it's strictly personal, the reason will be insufficient. Do I have a personal interest in seeing that men are no longer told that they must be Superman to qualify only for a Lois Lane, and then even then to be told that they owe her, but they are never owed anything no matter what they do to deserve it? That men should be laying prone at the feet of women socially and legally. I have a personal interest in seeing that not happen, but I've already satisfied that. How long have I been talking about this? Not long. How long have I been living in an environment in which I don't really have to worry about that? Unless maybe it's on the basis of nationalism more so than gender. Well, even that's not happened. But how long have I lived in an environment in which I'm pretty safe from that? Almost 8 years now. You see? So I had a personal interest in it in the States. It's gone. Now it's about you. But having a personal interest is fine and dandy, but why advocate for it now? Because it's right for you. As a man or a woman, it's right for you. Why do I sit up here and tell women that they need to accept that Kevin Samuels is right about what the problem is going on between men and women? Do I agree that black folks are scientifically the ugliest? Abso-effing-lutely not. No, that's not true. Culturally speaking, many other societies have agreed that they will prefer the black woman last. I don't agree with them either, but I know that that's the case because they sat up and told me. Arabs have that sentiment. I look at Arabs and I'm like, how do y'all come to a consensus that not only is the black woman the least desirable based on race alone, but that the most desirable woman is the one associated with the most oppression on the planet, and you make fun of her for not wiping her nether regions properly when she finishes using the bathroom? Oh yeah. Yeah, they say things about Western women like this. They do. And you know, to them, Western is majority white. They say this, and I'm like, then why do you think that they're the most attractive? Seriously, why would you think they're the best looking, even better looking than your own women? Brainwashing. And I don't feel a guck why, because a Muslim's not supposed to have that. That's another topic for another recording, but I've already been through this in so many recordings in previous years. I advocated based on where I saw the moral need for it, and the absence of it. But if your reasons for doing this have no morality in them, then understand Naturally, we're going to disagree, but you're also going to find yourself preoccupied with stupid arguments and debates that are unnecessary and a waste of your time. Most people are actually debating, and you know what I find out? They really agree on more things than they realize. What they debating about? If your reasons are moral, and you are sick and tired of seeing people descend into dumb debates that are unnecessary, and half the time they agree anyway, understand, the reason why I titled this as I did is because of that. Those of you that are in this for moral reasons are in a sphere by ourselves. You and I are in a sphere by ourselves. I understand that people will have different experiences, and it's okay for them to describe the differences and to try to learn. But what I see is that every time somebody offers another perspective that's based on an actual experience, everyone gets defensive. The truth be told, a lot of us simply don't know how to talk in spoken or written form. And then there are people that just, even in their 40s, think it's funny to be a troll for no reason at all. Just a troll. And not only that, but again, many people are getting into these arguments that they don't have to because you're in comment sections, live chats, able to type up to 200 characters max with the spaces and the punctuation. And you're on your phones, and you're not going to type a full report on your phone keyboard, but you're trying to say so much with so little. And everybody's getting into arguments because everyone's also making the worst assumptions about each other. And this is what I see time and time and time again. I'm not shocked that people have different opinions. I'm shocked at how stupidly and how easily they get into these unnecessary debates and they don't even disagree. Be agreeing and they sitting up here debating for what? Why is everybody trying to verbally dominate everybody else? If that's your goal, you ain't here for moral reasons. What I want to see is what many of you in your heart of hearts also want to see, but you keep forgetting this and getting distracted. When I say you, I'm pretty much talking across the board. It's the rule more than the exception when I say you. Sometimes I'll slip up and forget. That's why I got to make an apology to Bluish Gelato. Not for disagreeing, but when I swore at him, it was for a particular reason, and now I found that it might have not have even been something he said. So for that, I apologize, Bluish Gelato, if I've forgotten to do it already. I've recorded this so many times trying to keep it short and been interrupted. I don't remember if I apologized already in this version or the third version I've recorded, or if it was a second. This is my 6th time trying. The phone keeps ringing every time I record. I don't get phone calls when I'm not recording. I shit you not. Doesn't happen. Start recording, phone starts ringing. And then I can't disable the recording and pause it till I answer the phone. So I'm like, oh my God. But yeah, we get into this stupid stuff too easily. And it means that people are forgetting the moral reasons for which they got into these groups and advocacies. And it becomes about ego. Everybody wants to not only assuage their own ego, but they want to trample on somebody else's. And what does this lead to? Unnecessary arguments. I mean, I get it, there are going to be comparisons and contrasts, but the arguments are going to derail everything. Biracials arguing with each other based on parentage. I'm not going to go into it, but I'm saying I know that that exists. Why? Now, when I get the evidence, or I should say when I get more evidence as to which side started it, then maybe I will take a side in that too. But right now, I'm at 2-0. 2 bits of evidence for one side, and 0 bits of evidence for the other side. It's not a whole lot in and of itself. But right now, while I'm still at only 2-0, I got to address this. Why are you not merely comparing and contrasting experiences to get an idea as to the nature of what you're facing? And instead, you're arguing with each other and characterizing each other. And I'm not going to front. I'm going to advocate even on behalf of black men that are not MLS in this space for one reason. Black men are individuals. Men generally come as individuals. But black men are categorically blamed for things that most of them cannot do. Now, if you count me as black, great. If you don't, great. Point is, the advocacy is still going to be the same. Many are blamed for what they did not do. Many are blamed for what a few of them could do. Couch surfing, hobosexuality, not with an M but with a B. Leaving women as baby mamas who wanted to be with them, and good women as baby mamas who wanted to be with them. Living off of hardworking, successful, strong, educated, corporate black women. And getting, shooting at them as before getting themselves shot in the process. Like, what's his name? Jarvis Jarrett in Atlanta. This is not something most men can. Most black men really ain't thugs now. If you live in Chicago, I don't know. Y'all tell me that's pretty bad over there. But in most normal cities, big, small, and medium, most people ain't thugs, and most people ain't nerds. Most people are somewhere in the middle. And we're arguing about small minority extremes that most people will never become. We're arguing about celebrities. Most people aren't celebrities. We're arguing about the rich. Most people aren't rich. We're arguing about the thugs. Most human beings of any shade or gender aren't thugs. And then we're arguing about the nerds, and most human beings of any shade or gender aren't nerds either. Most people are pretty smart. The human being is a smart species in general. It's because you forgot the morality of why you were in here. And if you remember the morality of why you're in here at all times, you're in your own sphere. And that's why the title of this is Stand Up and Do It Alone. Because you're going to be isolated. And if you're really being moral about it, you're going to wind up having to check everybody at some point, even yourself. Like I've had to do twice recently. But in winding up having to check everybody, you're going to also wind up appearing to flip-flop. And I'm going to say this too, though. I was glad when somebody said something about me being a light-skinned traitor. I was glad when I heard that. Only for one reason. I'm going to advocate for whoever's being blamed for stuff they didn't do. I can't stand Brittany Renner. You know me, I'm manosphere. Now, I look down on P.J. Washington for being that dumb. But I take moral issue with what Brittany Renner said, what she did. And I don't believe what she told DJ Academics completely. But then again, maybe, I don't know. Doesn't really matter. What does matter is that even though I can't stand the likes of Brittany Renner based on the things she said in those videos years ago, I don't want her blamed for stuff she didn't do, and I don't want it blamed what she did. I don't want blamed on things that had nothing to do with it. Brittany Renner didn't do what she did because she's light-skinned or because she has some white blood in her. That doesn't make her a Jezebel and make her scandalous. That's not what the case is. I can't stand Aisha Curry the way she doesn't respect her husband. You know what? It ain't got nothing to do with a shade. Now, Gabrielle Union told her and Steph that they need to go and date other people and see other people and do everything except be with each other. She did say that, and that was because she didn't want those two together. And she later on admitted she would get triggered just by a light-skinned woman walking into a room. She said it. Gabrielle Union, who can, I guess she can act well enough. Gabrielle Union pretty much said she wanted to be a video vixen. So even when I say something about her, it ain't based on nothing phenotypical or genotypical. It's about choices she made. But I don't want her blaming Aisha Curry's disrespect, nor anybody else for that matter, blaming it on the fact that Aisha Curry's light-skinned. That's not fair. Just as an example. Fair is fair, right is right. And if you remember that, then you got to check everybody at some, or you at least disagree with everybody, and you're going to seem like you're flip-flopping. And understand, if you're trying to be fair at all times, and that's why you wind up seeming like you're flip-flopping, you're on the right path. You're on the right track. And that being said, on my channel, I tell anybody, Islam is the solution. I've already said it multiple times. I'm not going up onto other people's channels and trying to proselytize until I'm asked. But when I say de-westernize, ladies, that does mean go back to the morals, most of which are shared by multiple religions, even if they're not Abrahamic faiths. And speaking of which, the three Abrahamic faiths are not Western. You see where I was going with that? So you may say, well, what exactly do you mean by de-westernize? Well, what I mean by that is either you choose hypergamy or you choose feminism, which means that your arrangements with men could be 50-50. But you cannot sit up here and hold on to both and then keep a man. You're going to drive any man off, because that would demand that he be Superman while you get to be Lois Lane. And that's not fair. And that's not even possible. That would mean that you get to just walk yourself into situations from which you're going to need a rescue, and he comes and you never have to take accountability and suffer any consequences of decisions you make. You'll never make good decisions if you were given that. That's in a nutshell what it means. You have to understand that there's give and take. And that's what I'm talking about when I say de-westernize. The westernizing, or the Western socialization, pretty much teaches men you give, and it teaches women you take. It tells us, you give, she takes. It tells you, he gives, you take. He owes you, you never owe him. He never deserves, especially anything he might want. That's what it tells you. And that's what you have to shake off. And it's a very difficult thing. I understand it's a really difficult thing, but that's what it involves. The men have to go through a deprogramming and a reprogramming as well. But then again, I mean, hell, the men that don't, they wind up pretty much never selected by any woman. Or if they do, it's only a woman that has no other options, and she settles. And they're likely to pass away unselected and childless if they don't deprogram and then reprogram. The lucky ones are the ones who never believe the programming. The lucky guys are the ones who grow up, for whatever reason, not believing that they should bring flowers to the first date and things like that. For whatever reason. They disbelieve the programming from the time that it's presented to them on TV or by the ladies in their family. They wind up being the luckiest ones, so to speak. They succeed the most. And the most easily. They're chosen again and again and again and again, and they're chosen above and below the belt. And that's why I don't sit up and tell the men, well, you need to de-westernize. No, the men already know. If they come through the manosphere, then they already know. And if they already know they need to, then they've gone through some sort of manosphere or red pill awareness. So that's taken care of itself. And that's why I don't have to tell them. I've already told them for 2 years, and I found that there's been a sphere telling them this for almost a decade prior to that. And that's why. No, ladies, it's a hard pill to swallow. But the truth of it is that men, well, let's say non-Wyatts, did not start this gender war. And I've even stated before, most women alive today didn't start it, especially the young ones. They inherited it. We were born into it. But they didn't start it. You just have to understand that because much of the power is in your hands, most of the time the ball is in your court, that means you got accountability. And proportional to how much power is in your hands that's not in men's hands, you have accountability that men don't have as well. If you revel and gloat in power you have that men don't, that means you will take the accountability as well that men won't take. That's just fair. If it was the reverse, it would be on us. What do we men get to control? To a certain extent, we do. To a certain extent. But what we don't get to control, why do we take accountability for it? I'll be honest with you. I've run experiments before, and I can tell you one experiment I know. When birth control is utilized by the man in a way that women cannot control, circumvent, or get around, they don't want that man. Oh yeah. Absolutely don't. I've run that experiment before. I know about that. And I just want y'all to understand that if you're in any particular sphere and of any mindset in which you don't want to do harm to men like this, then all you got to do is enjoy your innocence. And don't be offended when I talk about the ones that are guilty, so that the men, especially the young men, know what to look out for. It's just like if you're talking about men that actually are dangerous and you're distinguishing them from normal men, but you're telling the woman how to prepare for dangerous men, fine. What I'm going to get offended for? I'm not dangerous to women. I'm not dangerous to anybody until I'm provoked or cornered or something of that nature. So what I'm going to be offended for? But unfortunately, when I sit up and I talk about what it is that you'd have to do, and I don't think that every woman in the West is automatically bad. No, of course not. A lot of this stuff is bad training. But what I do understand, what I do see is that when I point this out, there are many women they want to reject the notion that there's a bad training. Just like there's for men too. And then what they turn around and the men say, okay, well, the training's not helping me. I'm willing to deprogram and reprogram. The women are like, well, I expected to get a whole lot and give up nothing, so I'm not going to settle for anything else. And then the women start to consciously take on what previously was subconscious. That's what I've seen happen before. What you think happened in Bossy's case? She grew up in the same environment, same Western paradigm. And she straight up now will tell you it ain't about fairness. We take, you give. We deserve, you owe. And that's it. There's no reciprocity in this. She straight says it. She is conscious of this. I'm sure there was a day when she was young and this was all subconscious. Somewhere down the line, someone taught her to question these assumptions. She questioned them and then said, there's no way I'm going to sit up here and talk about fairness, which means I got to give up more. Absolutely not. No, it's we're women, we take and y'all give. And that's what it came down to. A lot of women sit up and say, well, y'all the ones that want the legacy. Y'all want the kids and the family. And what do we say? When we don't? When that's not what we're looking for? When that's not what a man's goal is right now? That's exactly what he's presented with. When he is looking for this, he can't find a good situation in which to bring it about. That's usually what we men are presented. Whatever it is we don't want is presented to us. So when I go hard on Western women and wicked witches of the West, it's not hatred, except for the wicked witches of the West. That's why I call them wicked witches. But it's not necessarily hatred. However, the fact is that the program has got to be dealt with. That's the moral thing to do. That's why I do it. I don't think that men can escape accountability. Hell, men can't escape accountability when they don't do something. That's why I don't have to talk about it as much. I'm wrong and I find out I'm wrong, I got to say something, and I do. I've had to do it twice in a 2-week span. But then again, it's like, in all honesty, a lot of ladies say, I don't hear men taking accountability. No, you don't hear men that wouldn't do these things taking accountability, and you're not going to. And I'm part of the reason for that. I'm part of the inspiration, and I'm honored to be such, telling men, if you didn't do it, you don't take accountability for it. If you did it and you already took accountability for it and suffered for it, don't take it again, unless you did it twice. I'm part of the one saying that to these men. Take accountability? Okay, take accountability for making it too easy. How about that? Some women will sit up and talk about, well, men don't like to commit. No, the men that have too many options may not like to commit. Even then, there are those of them that like to commit. But the men that have a lot of options, well, I mean, you know, they're the least likely to want to commit. Spoiled for choice. Similar thing with the women. We're supposed to sit down and understand it and see it from women's point of view. Well, she's attractive and she's young and she's gorgeous and she's educated and everything is visually fine with her. Why should she have a good attitude and why should she want to settle? We're supposed to understand that. Women out here throwing themselves at the tallest 1.4% of men, the wealthiest 10% of men. Throwing themselves at them. And then they want to know why these men don't want to commit. And instead of feeling obligated to try to understand it from their perspective, they instead turn around and characterize men. Y'all are commitment phobes. I don't come from a line of men that were afraid of commitment. And it seems to run in my family that the men prefer women older, about 2 to 3 years. That would be great for several women. You know what? Because these things were okay with me, they were not okay with many women. And that's the truth of the matter. What it really comes down to is that there is something in the programming, and I do think it is specific to the West. There is something in the way women are trained to simply look for situations that are difficult for men, period. I talk about this because of the morality of it. See, when I was single, wasn't finding nobody, I didn't think it was okay for me to talk about this stuff. I really didn't. Now, I'm in a good situation. I want others to be, men and women. I actually heard one woman who's not in the golden sphere anymore sit up and say all the time what she wanted women to enjoy, marriage and financial stability. And I never heard her say this about men. I understand why now, but I never heard her say it about men. Now I get it. I've actually wanted men and women to be able to enjoy this. Because that's the moral thing. I'm not bragging about myself. What I'm talking about is the motivation that many of us have in our heart of hearts, and yet we still somehow keep forgetting because of ego. A lot of us of various ages are not practiced at actually caring about other people. Now, in the manosphere, I can honestly tell y'all straight up, I do see that. I didn't always see it, but I do see it. Every year, I see more and more of this in the manosphere. I can't sit up and say that I'm seeing this across the board. In the golden sphere are the ones that offshot from it. I wish I could, but I can't say that. Maybe one day that will happen. Maybe so. It is new, but I can honestly say, too, that a lot of us are old enough to know better. And frankly, many of us who are old enough to know better are really nice. I mean, truth be told. Hell, content creators especially. But why are there some folks that in these chats talking about their ages close to mine and they just trolling and trolling and trolling? And why are people always making the worst possible assumptions about others in the chat? If you see a comment or a question directed at you, and it could be just a question, no harm meant, or it could be an insult and a jab at you, and you're not sure which one, what's wrong with assuming that it was just a question and not a jab? Huh? What's wrong with that? We ain't there yet. You're not going to find a maturity until people are willing to remember their moral motivations above the ego. And you have a right to defend your dignity, but until the moral motivation takes precedence over the ego, assuaging yours or trashing someone else's, We ain't there yet. And for the trolls, you don't even have a moral motivation. How about you fit the guck out? Because this is about safety, fairness, justice. This is about no child of any shade having to grow up hearing their phenotype demonized even when their behavior has been bad, and told that it's bad because of their phenotype, which they don't control. Told that they did something bad because of something beyond their control. You know how many times people have heard this coming up? Imagine a little boy, looks like most of the black population, but he got green eyes. And he's a little boy. And he takes some of grandma's candy because he's a kid and he likes sugar and he wants a snack. He doesn't say nothing because he knows that he doesn't usually get sugar when he asks for it. And then they find out. And they come and say, see, you spoiled because you got them little green eyes. What? That's not something he should hear. Should his theft be corrected? Absolutely. Should it be tied to his green eyes at such a tender age? Abso-effing-lutely not. Well, I guess I've said enough. As you all can hear, duty calls. And maybe this is what makes it easy to remember the moral motivations, which you can hear in the background now. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe not. I think it is. But whatever it is that you need to remind you multiple times a day about that, you put it into your phone. In the form of an alarm, whatever it is. Stand up and do it alone if you have to, but do it because it's right. Thanks for listening. Black Heart, Black Mind, Blackout. Assalamu alaikum.